Homeownership used to be one of the pillars of the American dream. Now, you've been paying attention to the real estate market for the last few years, you start to see a trend that more and more people are starting to figure out that being a homeowner isn't what it necessarily was cracked out to be. There was an interesting article in the Washington Post that just scored and just discussed the new issue that a lot of homeowners, especially people trying to get into the homeownership space, what they're starting to see is now that people are actually paying more for insurance and taxes and on their actual mortgage. Now, hold on. I want that one to sit in. What's happened to homeownership in the US? What's happened to homeownership around the world actually at this point? But it's been very interesting because if you think about it, owning a home nowadays just makes absolute very little to no sense. Now, of course, we're entering 2025. We're in a very pivotal moment and we're about to meet a lot of situations that a lot of homeowners, especially new homeowners, have never thought of. Now, if you think about it, right, we have Trump coming into office. One of the things that he's already discussed is immigration policies and tariff policies. Now, regardless of how you voted, don't care. It's not relevant for this video. These things usually tends to increase the cost of building. Right? You don't have cheap labor, or you have tariffs against countries like China that import goods, especially most of the goods that you use to build your house. That's only going to mean that the cost of that product's going to go up. But then we also face the fact that interest rates aren't going down because Jerome Powell just said that they don't plan to drop rates. So imagine a scenario where the cost of the homes are still elevated, interest rates are still elevated. It's virtually impossible for most Americans actually afford a home. I'll be honest with you, nowadays when I hear someone say, oh, they're buying a home, I'm almost inclined not to be congratulatory, not to be fair, because at the end of the day, right, you think about it, if you do the math, it actually costs you less money to rent one home than to actually purchase the home. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, purchasing a home is such a, you get to own it and whatever. But no, as an investor and the things that we discuss here on the Scrub Investor channel, honestly, I wouldn't tell anybody to buy a home, because some of the things that people don't consider with current home ownership is when you do buy a home, you take on the risk of when things break, you have to pay for it. Now, when you live in an apartment complex or you rent a home from another investor, you are passing on that responsibility to fix things. Nowadays, if you go and make that purchase, you are solely responsible for that responsibility. So I'll give you an example. I have a few homes here in Houston, and one of the things that I noticed was I had to renew my insurance on one of the homes, and literally my insurance went from $2,500 to $4,600. That was nearly a 100%. Well, it was like about an 80% increase, right? Now, for most people, you're gonna think, well, you're an investor, you should have been able to know. Some of these types of bumps you can't calculate for your risk tolerance, right? Like when you're running the numbers, you can't account for such egregious increases. I think a lot of investors, especially the younger people who are going to be coming into the business or coming into the game, are going to learn this the hard way, because the truth is this, it's just not the same. Now, for individuals who are buying a home to live in with their families, honestly, I wouldn't advise it. I'll tell you, you don't want to take on that risk, because just think about it, right? You buy that brand new house, and this is something that a lot of new homeowners don't think of. When you buy a brand new house, usually your insurance and your property taxes are low for the first year. The insurance doesn't usually go up that much the second year, right? But the property taxes skyrocket. Now, a lot of people, they get that sticker shock when they get their new property tax and it's gone up 3-4x. And they're wondering, well, why? Like, what happened? No, well, I'll tell you. Usually, especially if it's a new build that was built that year, what ends up happening is the city gives the builders property tax based on predominantly the land value. Now, the next year, then it changes over to the value of the land with the house on top of it. So you think about it, let's just say you're buying a house here in Houston area and the land value is, let's say, $80,000. Now, when you build that house and it's worth $500,000, that's almost going to be a 5x on your property taxes. And that doesn't even keep in mind that land value tax tends to be cheaper than the value on homes. So I think it's just one of those things where you're really gonna have to be smart about what you do in 2025. Because I will tell people this, especially the people that I mentor, you aren't in a rush to buy a home. It's just not worth it at this moment. But it will come a time where investing in a home and becoming a real estate investor will make more sense. And until then, I just think people should sit it out. You should wait, try to get homes the non-conventional way. Actually, I'll probably drop a video showing you different ways to be able to buy a home in a non-conventional way. Because at some point, people will start to default on this. There will be opportunities for you to buy a home in a very unconventional way. So if you found this video informative, make sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and until next time.